Welcome back to ROBLOX Studio Scripting. Today we're going to be going over loops. Now, loops are bits of code that repeat depending on what type of loop it is and conditions. There are three types: while loops, repeat loops, and for loops. We're going to be going over while loops first. So while loops are a lot like if statements. If a condition is met, they will do a piece of code. But unlike if statements, they repeat that check and repeat the code until that condition is no longer met. So if we have while condition is equal to true, then, or excuse me, not then. We don't use then, we use do. While true, do. So if we put a piece of code in here, and we have print exclamation mark, this will repeat infinitely because it'll go check. Oh, it's true. I'll do it. And then it goes back to the beginning and it goes, oh, it's true. I'm going to do it. And it goes over and over and over and over and over. Now, the astute among you may notice that there is no way for this to slow down. So it'll just print exclamation mark infinitely fast and for an infinite amount of time. And my computer cannot handle that. And no computer can. So if we run this, it's going to crash. See, it's not even loading. It's frozen. And the way we're going to fix this is we're going to talk about task functions. Well, we're going to talk about one task function. See? Several thousand script timeout. It did too much work, and now ROBLOX Studio is no longer responding. Great. We're gonna close that. Alright, I rebooted it. We're back. So, while loops, while a condition is met, I keep doing that. I don't know why I keep doing that. While condition do end, piece of code. We're gonna do print, but this time we're gonna put wait, and it's gonna take a parameter of seconds. And what this does, it basically yields or pauses the script for that amount of time. Well, not script. It pauses the current code for 1 second, or how many seconds is inside this, and then it lets it continue. So if we print again after that, we're gonna print like question mark or something. Well, I will print at because I don't know why. So this is gonna do, it's gonna print exclamation mark. It's gonna wait a second, and then it's gonna print at symbol, and then it's gonna go back to the beginning. It's gonna check if this is true, and it is. It's gonna do it over and over and over and over and over again. And it's not gonna crash this time, but it'll alternate forever and ever and ever until the server crashes, because it's inevitable. You can take any condition you want, just like an if statement, but you know how to do that. You're smart. I trust you. Let's have a variable. Let's create a variable of 0, and then we're gonna do while var is smaller than 200 do, and we're gonna add 1 to var, and then we're gonna print var every loop. Actually, we're gonna print the variable every loop, and we're also gonna add a wait. And if you don't put anything in there, I believe it goes to 1/30th of a second, which is the lowest the wait can wait for. And now it's just gonna all the way until it hits, I believe 200 we said. Yep. And then once it hits 200, it's done. And if we actually add print done, it'll go ra-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta until it hits 200, and then it'll print done. There we go. And that is how while loops work. Now, and while loops don't get used that much, in my experience, unless you're doing an infinite loop. But more common is the repeat loop. Okay, so repeat loops now. Now, if you do this, then you have your code in the middle like usual. We're gonna print exclamation mark. The repeat loop will loop any number of times until a condition is met. Once that condition is met, it'll continue down here, right? It'll continue. Now, what's different about the repeat loop than the while loop is it'll break when the condition is met rather than continuing when the condition is met. And it checks the condition after the code is done instead of before. So if we do, excuse me, I don't know why I autocorrected to that. It'll repeat and it'll print exclamation mark, but the condition is met, so it'll just print done. So it'll print exclamation mark once and then done. Right there. Now let's add a little wait because this could get messy. Well, let's just do 0. And then if we add false, excuse me, false, I can't spell. If we add false, it'll repeat over and over and over and over, and this condition will never be met. So we'll never get done. And that'll go on forever, just like the while loop. Let's do something similar like we did before. Add a variable, give it 0. We're gonna add 1 to the variable every single time, and we're gonna print the variable. We're gonna wait until the variable equals let's say 10. Oh, right, and we're comparing, not assigning, so double equation marks. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Done. Okay. And that is repeat loops. Okay, now for loops. For loops are complicated, but the simplest version will be for I equals min value, max value, do, end. And then it'll do code here, right? We have code there. Now, for calls the type of loop that it's going to be. I stands for index, but you can put any sort of local variable you want there. It can be named anything, but I always use I. Equals, so we're assigning a range to it. The minimum, 0, and the max, 10, and then do. So what this loop is going to do is it's going to loop around for as many times and add 1 to I. Right, so it's going to have 0. It's going to assign 0 to I. It's going to loop through. It's going to add 1 to I, check if I is equal to the max value, and then run through it again until I does equal the max value, right? So we print I here. We're going to get 11 numbers because I will equal 0 for the first time, and then it will equal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 until it equals 10, and then it'll be done. I'm going to have a little print here for when it's done. And it's going to do it super fast since we didn't add a wait function. Yep, 11 numbers, done. Now this is good if you want to repeat a bit of code for a certain amount of times. Do 1 if you want to do that, just because it's easier, because then the number of times it loops is the max value that you add here. Now, for loops can do something even better than this, right? So if we create a array and we give it, I don't know, a bunch of strings, and I'm going to spell out hello here. Okay, so we have our array with our values in it. Now, if you remember, index can also refer to the number in which one of these bits of information is stored, the cell, and we can actually loop through this array using a for loop. So if we do for I, comma v, index refers to the number that which it's in, h being 1, e being 2, l being 3, l being 4, and so on. And v stands for value, the actual value of what it is. In this case, h, e, l, and so on. For I, v in pairs, and we're going to put the table here, array, do, so it'll go through assigning I to the first and v to the first value, and then it'll loop through, and then it'll repeat the loop, add 1 to I, so it'll be the second one, v equals the second value, loop through again, I equals 3, v equals 3's value, and so on, until all things in the array are done. So if we have for iv in pairs array, we're going to print v, and it should spell out hello. Well, it's going to squash those together, but you see, it spells out hello, and it spells that out in order, right? And I find that really cool. Now you can do a bunch of things with this. Arrays, well, you can create an array from the number of parts within a character, and then loop through all of them and assign something to them. So if we said instead we had an array with just one value, and we had game.workspace.baseplate, right? And imagine we have more parts in here. We can do v.brickcolor equals brickcolor.new, well, .red. Right, and ignore what I'm doing, but you can do anything with v that you want, see? You can do anything with the value, and it's just going to loop through the entire thing and return the index and the value for each one in order. So those are loops. There are a few more things that act like loops, like render stepped, but we're going to get to that later. If you like the video, subscribe, leave a like, comment, tell me what I can do better, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.